UFC 158 Saturday night. GSP, Nick Diaz, 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm joined right now by the president of the UFC to talk about that and a few more things, Dana White. Dana, good to have you back. How are you? What's up?
I'm great, buddy. How are you?
Good, Dana. Let's get right at it. UFC 158, Dana, is Saturday. GSP and Nick Diaz, they were scheduled to meet back in 2011, but you pulled Diaz from that fight because he went AWOL when it came time to promote that fight. Leaving aside the outside cage stuff for a minute, how is this fight different now than it would have been if they had met back in 2011?
That's a good question. Well, now George St. Pierre has come back from knee surgery, being out a year and a half. He's had one fight against Carlos Condit, where he didn't look like George St. Pierre, let's put it that way. He got kicked to the head, got rocked in that fight, but then ended up pulling off a decision. So, I mean, this is a very interesting fight. And then talking about Nick Diaz, I'm sure you know because nobody does their homework like Jim Rome does, but we had a media conference call this week. First time ever in the history of this company, I get dropped off the call, and those two just start going at it on the call, which ended up being crazy. And then I literally just found out Nick Diaz did not show up for the open workouts today in Montreal.
All right, so he's been doing this again, Dana. In the build-up to the fight, he's gone Diaz again. He's missed multiple Countdown show interviews. He missed that workout. I mean, I know you're not okay with that. Is it just his shtick? I mean, does it still aggravate you? Where does that leave you with him now?
Let me tell you what, there is no shtick with this kid. I mean, he is just a different animal, man. He's absolutely hard to deal with, Between him and his brother, we were doing these Countdown shows. I got a crew. I mean, you're in this business. I got a crew up there running around in Stockton, California for 2 weeks. Ends up costing $50-$60 with no interviews.
Yeah, that's a real problem. And
real
so,
problem.
I mean, the guy's not going to change, though, right, Dana? This is who this guy is. Is there anything that he can do in the cage come Saturday night to make that right?
Yeah, I mean, if he wins, we are seriously going to have a come to Jesus meeting. You know what I mean?
And if he loses, where does that leave him?
I don't know. We'll see, man. I mean, the guy is very, very hard to deal with. We'll see what happens.
Hey, Danny, give me an idea.
I got to tell you this, though. I can't lie. Tomorrow, I leave tonight for Montreal. The press conference tomorrow. I'm excited for the press conference, and I'm definitely excited for the weigh-ins because you never know what you're going to get.
Well, I just hope he shows up.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what. If he does not show up tomorrow at the press conference, it is not going to be good.
Give me an idea.
I don't even know what to say or what I'm going to do, but let me tell you what, it will not be good.
Dana White, my guest. Dana, go back to what you said. When I said, what happens if the guy wins, and you said, well, we're going to have a come-to-Jesus meeting. Give me an idea. What's a come-to-Jesus meeting with Dana White sound and feel like?
He's going to have to come. If he wins the title, he's going to have to come to Vegas, and we're going to have to sit down. And we did this already when we signed his new deal. But, I mean, I'm going to have to tell him, if you miss anything, I will strip you of this title. And you know what I mean? I don't know what else to do. I really don't know what else to do.
The thing is, that aside, what about his layoff? It's going to be his first fight since the suspension for testing positive for marijuana metabolites. So it's going to be 405 days since he last stepped into a cage for a fight. How big of a factor do you think that'll be Saturday?
Well, let me tell you what about Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz does triathlons. He's always working out. He's always sparring. He's always in phenomenal shape. And guys who normally would have that much time off, guys don't start training again until it's time. You know what I mean? Until they're going back into camp. I honestly don't think it's going to affect Nick Diaz one bit.
No, he doesn't get out of shape. He stays in shape. That's definitely an advantage he has. Back to your point about when you dropped off that conference call, the two of these guys were going right at each other. One thing for Nick Diaz to kind of run his mouth a little bit, GSP never gets sucked into that sort of thing. So has Diaz kind of sucked him in? Is he under his skin? Is he in GSP's head?
You want to talk about being how sucked into this George St. Pierre is? George St. Pierre begged for this fight. He wants this fight so bad. And I'm telling you right now, you've heard it all over the commercials that we're running where I said George St. Pierre flipped out and said he's going to put the worst beating on him in UFC history. George St. Pierre, I talked to him last week, and he said, Dana, you have no idea what I'm going to do to this kid. I want to make him retire.
Why is he so angry? Other guys have tried to hook GSP that way and have not had success. What did Diaz do to get him so mad?
There's more to this story that hasn't been told, and what better place to tell it than on Jim Rome? I guess. You know, nobody has talked about this. I haven't said anything about it. But at one of the fights, the one where he really starts calling George out, he was chasing George around the hotel and, like, yelling at him and stuff. And George thought that he was going to try to fight him in the hotel. And he was just waiting for the elevator doors to open to be Nick Diaz. Like, at the last fight when he said all that stuff after he won his fight in the ring about George, he was really messing with George bad at the fight and, like, trying to fight him at the hotel. And that really, it really pissed George off.
I mean, could have come to that? Was he just messing with him, or could those guys have thrown right there in the lobby?
Yeah, no, I don't think that would ever happen, but George St. Pierre felt like it was, and that bothered him. You know, George has said publicly many times that when he was younger, he used to get bullied, and that's what got him into martial arts. And he just has this crazy thing about bullies. And he thinks Nick Diaz is a bully.
Dana White joining us. We're talking about UFC 158, Saturday night, St. Pierre and Diaz. Dana, before you go, GSP's been talking about, quote, you have no idea how dark I am in my head sometimes. Explain that to me, because you look at GSP, you know, the guy's so smooth, and you don't see a guy who's dark or dark inside his head. What does he mean when he says I'm dark inside my head?
I don't know. You know, only he knows that. I know there's this whole side to him, like I said, about the bullying thing. But I don't know. I don't know what that means. But I guess we'll find out on Saturday.
Hope so. Listen, before you go, Ronda Rousey is on our Showtime show tonight. We have episode 1 of season 2, and obviously you brought her in. She had her first fight with the UFC. Where did her debut rank among the great and significant moments in your company's history?
Not only in our company's history, but in fight history. The biggest pay-per-view a woman had ever done was Layla Ali and Frazier's daughter. They did 120,000 buys. And, you know, I don't ever talk about numbers, but I'll tell you this. Her fight crushed that. Crushed it. I mean, it was the biggest female fight in fight history. And obviously anybody who watched the fight, not only was it was an amazing fight.
I'll throw a number out there. I mean, she did 500,000 buys, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
It's a big number. It's a big number. So, I mean, she's huge already.
Number.
How much bigger can she get, Dana?
What's that?
How much bigger can she get?
Oh, I think the sky's the limit with this girl, man. She's an amazing athlete. She's a great fighter. She's got the whole package. And what's even more exciting is I got 10 other girls that are very talented to challenge her. So it's going to be interesting. That many? 10 that could get in with her, give her a fight? Yeah, we got 10 girls signed right now. On the finale of The Ultimate Fighter, Kat Zagano will fight Miesha Tate, and the winner of that fight will fight Ronda Rousey. All right, Dana, one last thought. New York has long been a state that you've been looking to get into for many reasons. I feel like you and I have always talked about that. Yesterday, Governor Andrew Cuomo said he is not opposed to MMA in general. He would like to determine the economic impact of lifting the ban. What is your reaction to hearing that? Yeah, it's obviously music to my ears, and I'm very confident that it's going to happen this year, and we're going to get this thing done and hold an event in New York this year. Towards the end of the year? Yeah, Madison Square Garden. What would that look and feel like, and what would the economic impact of a show at Madison Square Garden be? Well, after we roll into New York, put on an event and leave, New York will wish they got this thing done 5 years ago. UFC 158, Saturday, St. Pierre and Diaz. UFC President Dana White, my guest. Dana, great to have you back. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure, brother. Have a great day. You too, Dana. All right, so GSP and Nick Diaz. He said there's more to this story. That Diaz was running around the hotel trying to get GSP to fight him. That GSP does have a dark side. That he's got this thing that he was bullied when he was younger, and he feels like Diaz is a bully. And that he told Dana White, I'm going to hurt this kid. I want this one. GSP is an unbelievable gentleman and spokesman for the sport. He's a gentleman. He's soft-spoken. He's all class. You know, he's the last guy that I would think, look, in order to get inside that cage, you've got to be a certain kind of guy. You've got to be wired a certain sort of way, certain person. But he's the last guy that I would think would have a, quote, dark side. GSP is not the dark side guy. Nick Diaz, I could see having a dark side. Most of these guys, I could see having a dark side. GSP is like professorial. You know, he's all class. He's very polished. He's very smooth, very intellectual.
but Diaz has done something or said something to get in his head and get under his skin.